Rimuru, the New Beginning as Primordial Demon Violet by Veldanava God. Chapter 10. The naming of the primordials. Falmouth battlefield, just after the Great Massacre. The air was thick with the stench of blood, and the ground littered with corpses. Amidst this chaos, three of the most powerful demons in existence, Violet, John, and Noir, stood over a trembling Raisin, the last survivor of the once proud kingdom of Falmouth. Raisin, beaten and discouraged, his robes torn and covered in dirt, struggling to comprehend the overwhelming power that had been unleashed on him. Violet had pinned him to the ground with nothing but her aura, her eyes glinting with the same sadistic glee she had once used in the infernal depths. Violet smirked. "This is it? This is the great mage who was supposed to give Rimuru some trouble?" She gasped darkly, pathetic. John, still in her playful mood, tilted her head. "Maybe we should have let him run for a while longer, just to make it more interesting." She changed at Raisin, her eyes shining with cruel amusement. "But I guess playtime's over, huh?" Noir, ever calm and composed, simply watched in silence, his arms crossed. "We've completed our task. Let's not waste time here. Rimuru awaits." With a casual flick of her wrist, Violet knocked Raisin unconscious, binding him in dark magic. "Shall we deliver this little prize to our new master?" She said the word, master, with a touch of irony. For her, the idea of serving anyone again, especially knowing she was once Rimuru, was both amusing and intriguing. But she had her reasons. Back in Tempest, they arrived at Rimuru's temporary camp, where he waited for the return of his new demon subordinates. The transition into a demon lord was complete, but it had drained him deeply. Still, he stood with his usual confidence, his azure eyes scanning the approaching demons as they brought forth the bound Raisin. Rimuru, his voice low but filled with authority, addresses the three. "You've done well. I didn't expect anything less." Violet, feeling the pull of her past and present selves collide, couldn't help but chuckle. It was hardly a challenge. This world is still so weak. John laughed. "Especially this one." She kicked the unconscious Raisin slightly. "He's nothing more than a glorified insect." Noir, as stoic as ever, nodded. "As you commanded, Rimuru. Raisin is alive, for now." Rimuru approached, giving Raisin a brief glance before dismissing him with a wave of his hand. "You fulfilled your part. I no longer have use for you in the material realm. You can return to the infernal realm now." The words hit the three demons harder than they expected. The anticipation of further chaos and excitement in this world had gripped them. They had finally found a place to unleash their true powers, and now they were being dismissed. It felt like a death sentence to them, after having tasted the thrill of the material world's challenges. Violet narrowed her eyes, her voice suddenly filled with a hint of urgency. "Return to the infernal realm? Is that all we are to you?" John frowned, her playful demeanor dropping for a moment. "You can't be serious, Rimuru. We came here to serve you, not just to complete a single task." Noir, though less outwardly expressive, lowered his gaze, the weight of the words pressing on him. "We belong here now, with you." Rimuru blinked, caught off guard by their sudden shift in tone. "You want to stay?" Violet, her eyes locking with Rimuru's, spoke firmly. "Of course we do. We haven't felt this alive in millennia. You're different from anyone we've encountered. We've chosen you. Let us serve you, permanently." There was a moment of silence as Rimuru processed their words. The idea of having the three most powerful demons as his subordinates was certainly tempting, but it wasn't a decision he had anticipated making so soon. He had only just completed his transformation into a demon lord and was still adjusting to the immense power coursing through him. Rimuru scratched his chin, thinking. "All right. I see where you're coming from. If you want to stay, then I'll accept it." He looked at them, a soft smile playing on his lips. "But if you're going to serve me, you'll need names." The three demons looked at each other, excitement flickering in their eyes. To be named by Rimuru, the rising demon lord, meant a new stage of existence, a gift of immense power. Violet, though she already knew Rimuru's power intimately, couldn't help but feel a thrill of anticipation. "I'm ready." Rimuru first turned to Violet. There was something about her that he felt a strange connection to, but he couldn't place it. "I'll name you Ultima." The moment the name was spoken, a surge of energy enveloped her. It was like her very soul was being reborn once again, but this time, her identity as both Rimuru and Violet solidified within her as Ultima. Her eyes flashed with a dangerous, ecstatic gleam. Ultima. Yes. This suits me well. The power she felt coursing through her veins was intoxicating, but she hid the truth of her past life even deeper now. She had become something more than either of her previous selves. Next, Rimuru looked to John. John, Ultima's longtime companion and ally in the infernal domain. As for you, Carrera. That'll be your new name. Carrera grinned, feeling the surge of energy just as Ultima had. Carrera. Perfect. I'll make sure you never regret this, Rimuru. Finally, Rimuru's gaze fell on Noir, the most composed of the three. And you? You'll be known as Diablo. Noir, now Diablo, bowed deeply. A fitting name, my lord. I am honored beyond words. The three newly named primordial demons stood before Rimuru, their already immense power now multiplied by the blessing of his names. Each of them could feel the growth within themselves, their very existence solidifying as loyal subordinates to this new demon lord. As the naming process concluded, Rimuru's body wavered, his aura fluctuating as he suddenly felt the immense strain of the process. Naming three of the most powerful demons in existence had drained an incredible amount of his magicules, far more than he had anticipated. I need to rest, Rimuru muttered, his vision blurring as his legs gave way. Ultima caught him, her strength easily supporting his collapsing form. You've overextended yourself. You'll need to enter a deep sleep to recover. Carrera stepped forward, concern flickering in her eyes. Don't worry, Rimuru. We'll protect you while you rest. You have our word. Diablo bowed once more, his voice firm. Your enemies will not touch you, my lord, not while we're here. Rimuru managed a tired smile, his eyes fluttering shut as the overwhelming exhaustion overtook him. I'm counting on you. Ultima, Carrera, Diablo. And with that, Rimuru drifted into a deep, magicule replenishing sleep, leaving his three newly named subordinates standing guard. As they stood over Rimuru's slumbering form, Ultima, the former Rimuru, felt a strange mixture of emotions. She had come full circle, once a slime, now a demon, and again a loyal servant to herself, in a way. Her secret was still hers alone, but for now, she was content to play this role, at least until the time came to reveal the truth. Carrera, always the more exciting one, cracked her knuckles. I guess we'll have to keep ourselves busy until he wakes up. I wouldn't mind a bit of chaos, just to pass the time. Diablo, ever the vigilant one, nodded. Our task is clear. Protect Lord Rimuru at all costs. But if any dare approach, well, I welcome the opportunity to show them the consequences. Ultima smirked. I wouldn't expect anything less. Let them come. We'll be ready. And so, the three most powerful demons, now named and bound to Rimuru, stood guard, their loyalty to their master unquestionable. But beneath the surface, the complexities of their intertwined pasts and futures simmered, waiting for the right moment to come to light. Chapter 11. The integration of the primordials. It had been several days since Rimuru fell into a deep sleep after naming the primordial demons. His demon lord evolution, combined with the act of naming three of the most powerful entities in existence, had drained his magicules to their limit. Now, as the first rays of dawn pierced through the curtains of his chamber in Tempest, Rimuru stirred, awakening with renewed strength. As Rimuru opened his eyes, the familiar sights of his room greeted him, but he immediately sensed the presence of those standing just outside the door. They weren't ordinary guards. He could feel the overwhelming auras of the primordial demons he had named, Ultima, Carrera, and Diablo. Rimuru smiled to himself. It's time to put them to work. In the Tempest Palace's main hall, Rimuru stood at the center, flanked by his top subordinates. Benimaru, the dependable commander of the army, stood at attention. Beside him were Shion and Shuna, both showing their respect as they awaited Rimuru's orders. Hakuro, Geld, Ranga, and others were there as well, watching intently. At the far end of the hall, the three primordial demons stood together, their newly given names now their identities. Ultima stood in the middle, her eyes gleaming with a dangerous excitement, while Carrera and Diablo stood on either side of her, their expressions confident but controlled. Rimuru glanced at his subordinates, then at the three primordials, and cleared his throat. Everyone, I want to introduce you to the newest additions to our ranks. These three are among the strongest demons in existence. They'll be playing important roles in Tempest moving forward. He gestured toward Ultima first. This is Ultima. Her specialty is interrogation. His eyes met hers for a brief moment, and Rimuru couldn't help but feel the eerie connection he had with her, a reminder of the past he didn't fully understand. From now on, she will be responsible for gathering information from prisoners, using any means necessary. Ultima's lips curled into a sadistic smile. You won't regret this, Rimuru. I promise to extract every bit of information, no matter how deep it's buried. Xian, standing nearby, raised an eyebrow. Interrogation, huh? You sure you don't want me doing that? She cracked her knuckles, half joking. Rimuru laughed softly, shaking his head. Trust me, Xian. Ultima's methods are a bit more specialized than yours. Next, Rimuru turned to Carrera. Carrera will take command of one of our army divisions. Her role will be that of a field commander, second only to Benimaru. Carrera, with her usual enthusiasm, gave a toothy grin. Finally, a real chance to blow things up. I'll make sure our enemies won't know what hit them. Benimaru, ever the professional, nodded respectfully. I'll work with you closely to make sure everything runs smoothly, Carrera. I look forward to seeing your battle prowess in action. Carrera chuckled. Oh, don't worry, you'll see plenty. Finally, Rimuru's gaze landed on Diablo, who was standing perfectly still, his black eyes gleaming with pure devotion. And Diablo, Rimuru began, with a soft chuckle, will serve as my personal butler. He's going to be in charge of handling my affairs directly. A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd, particularly from Xian, who looked half offended. Wait, what? Why does he get that role? I'm your #1 secretary, Rimuru-sama. Rimuru smiled apologetically at Xian, trying to calm her jealousy. You're still my #1, Xian. But Diablo has a certain finesse when it comes to more delicate matters. Besides, you're more than enough to handle everything else. Diablo, without missing a beat, bowed deeply and gracefully. It is the highest honor, my lord. I will ensure that all your needs are met with utmost precision and care. You will want for nothing while I serve you. Xian huffed but couldn't argue. Fine, but I'm still keeping an eye on him. After the introductions, Rimuru called for a more private meeting between himself, the primordials, and his closest advisors. The war room was soon filled with the aura of intense power, as Rimuru sat at the head of the table, with Benimaru, Xian, and Shuna on one side, and Ultima, Carrera, and Diablo on the other. Rimuru looked around, his expression serious. With these new roles in place, we're going to be restructuring some of Tempest's defenses and military organization. Benimaru, you'll still have ultimate command over the army, but Carrera will work directly under you. I expect you to coordinate with her during operations. Benimaru nodded. Understood. We'll make sure to use their strength effectively. Carrera's grin widened. I can't wait to see what kind of enemies we'll be facing. It's been a while since I've had a proper fight. Xian leaned forward, arms crossed. Just don't get too full of yourselves. Tempest's enemies won't know what hit them, but we need to keep discipline. Ultima, ever the mischief maker, added, discipline? Isn't it more fun to watch your enemies squirm? I'll be more than happy to take care of any prisoners we capture along the way. Rimuru sighed, though there was a small smirk on his face. Ultima, remember. We have rules here. No going overboard unless absolutely necessary. We still need information from our enemies, not just carnage. Ultima rolled her eyes playfully. Of course, Rimuru. I'll keep it in mind. As the meeting progressed, Rimuru laid out the specifics of their roles. Diablo would oversee day-to-day tasks within the palace, ensuring Rimuru's personal affairs were handled efficiently. He was also tasked with monitoring any diplomatic or internal matters that required the Demon Lord's attention. Meanwhile, Carrera, though naturally impulsive and destructive, would be closely working with Benimaru to ensure that Tempest's military operations remained strong and efficient. Carrera, in particular, was eager for battle, her past as a chaotic entity feeding her desire for action. After a long day of planning, Rimuru leaned back in his chair, satisfied with how things were coming together. His kingdom was growing stronger by the day, and with the addition of these three powerful beings, Tempest had become even more formidable. As they prepared to leave, Ultima, formerly Violet and the only one who knew the truth about Rimuru's past life, approached him privately. Her eyes gleamed with mischief, but her words were laced with hidden meaning. I look forward to seeing where this path takes us, Rimuru. She spoke softly, her voice almost a whisper. Rimuru raised an eyebrow. You sound like you know something I don't. Ultima smirked, but didn't reveal anything. Maybe. But for now, I'll just enjoy watching things unfold. Rimuru chuckled. Well, as long as you're on my side, I'm not worried. Ultima's smile widened. Always. And with that, Rimuru watched as his new subordinates, Ultima, Carrera, and Diablo, integrated into the heart of Tempest, each playing their roles perfectly. But beneath the surface, the complex web of loyalties, secrets, and hidden agendas continued to grow, with Ultima at the center, harboring the truth of Rimuru's past life as her greatest secret. As Rimuru drifted off to sleep that night, his kingdom felt more secure than ever, but the journey was far from over.